Hey guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. We are in episode 2, talking about the GI system and all the perils that can come along with that. And I want Adam just to start with the most easy thing that I think people can handle and look for and mitigate. And the first symptoms we generally have is just excess gas, flatulence. And it's almost kind of a joke. Like when you eat well, eat healthy, you're going to fart a lot. Everybody says that about their spouses or friends or it's just always a big joke. But if that's happening, there is a problem. And that's why the low FODMAP diet is something that a lot of practitioners point to. Fermentable carbohydrate sources are fermented in your large intestine, because any carbohydrate source that gets down to the large intestine undigested, anaerobic bacteria consume those, and the byproduct is methane, which is a gas. And so that builds up in your large intestine, and you have all that gas, pain, distension, all that. But that is also what can lead to some pathology. That can lead to a spastic colon, that can lead to extra diarrhea and constipation as things are in flux. So if somebody came to you, Adam, and said, man, I am just feeling so bloated all of a sudden, and a lot of clients will send us pictures like look at my stomach, it looks like I'm 6 months pregnant. What's the first thing you tell them?
Yeah, a lot of times, again, going back to food logs, but I would normally have the assumption they're probably consuming too much fiber. A lot of people are going to blame it on protein. It must be the protein. It must be the protein shakes, which could be true if that person has some sort of dairy allergy. But most of the time, they're eating way too much fiber, and that's converting to methane gas, like you said, and causing some issues, sometimes even some backup, which I'm sure we'll get into as well.
Yeah, you really nailed the two biggest ones, and that's exactly what I look for. When somebody sends me a food log and I'm trying to figure out what's causing that, too much fiber, too much harsh vegetable mass, and specifically raw, because when you cook vegetables, you take those oligosaccharides and break them down into more disaccharide form, and they just become more digestible, so you don't get all that refuse stuck down in your GI system that will then create methane gas. But also dairy, for sure. I mean, there's no question that lactose, a third of the human population is completely lactose intolerant. A third has a varying degree of intolerance, and then for a third, it's okay, it's tolerated. So a lot of times I'm scanning right away for too much vegetable mass, raw vegetables, definitely looking at too much protein powder, but even protein bars, because some of them now, it's very in vogue to put all kinds of filler, very cheap filler fiber to have a high fiber, lower sugar bar. And those end up being, a lot of soy products. You almost can't find a protein bar that the first protein ingredient is not soy protein, because it's cheap. And that's made from a bean, a legume, which of course is highly fermentable. That's one of those jokes, Gas-X, Beano, things like that, enzymes to break that down. So if you're somebody that's really struggling, especially all of a sudden, these symptoms just come on like a freight train, you got to look back. 18 to 24 hours is how long it takes for you to consume something and for it to get down to the lower GI system and present those kind of symptoms. So a lot of people say, as soon as I eat this food, I get bloated. Well, you still got about 25 feet of intestines and about 24 hours for that to get down there to cause a problem. But when you consume that food, your bowels move. The mechanical peristalsis from the muscle tissue is going to move that down. And so every time you consume something, it is moving that food lower. But always look back to the previous day, 12, 18, 24 hours previous. But those are the foods, I think, that are the biggest offenders. But do you have any insight into other things that you find as issues?
Yeah, sometimes the more ingredients I see in a product, the more I'm going to look into that and maybe just simplify their diet. A great example is I had a client eating organic black bean pasta, and it claimed to have, I think, 17 grams of protein. But when I looked up what a cup of just organic black beans was, it was all carb. Mm-hmm. So I just really don't trust what she was eating. And I think it took about 4 days for GI to clear off, but it was specifically that, because that was the only thing we changed in her diet. And it was a product from China. And I said, we just can't trust what is in this.
Yeah, and even if it was just all black beans, it's again beans. It's something that is highly fermentable and very low digestibility. So this is an important first step. Just looking at these first kind of symptoms, because this is where it all starts. And in our next episode, guys, we're going to be switching over to some of the more serious symptoms and dysfunctions that you can encounter. So we see you next time in Contest Prep University.